Many thanks for joining me on Global News and Zuma Nigeria. Let's begin with judicial matters in the United States. Biden to propose Supreme Court term limits on Israeli attack. Israeli kills 3 Syrian children. Trump's former rivals Haley DeSantis unite at RNC. Biden mocked for claiming strong support for Palestinians. And 6 found dead in Thai hotel. Police probe poisoning. Stay with me for these and more stories. Talking judicial matters in the United States, according to reports from the United States, Joe Biden, U.S. President, is getting to propose major changes to the Supreme Court and its powers in the coming weeks that will include term limits for justices and an enforceable ethics code. Biden is also weighing whether to call for a constitutional amendment to eliminate broad presidential immunity granted by the court in its most recent term, report said on Tuesday. During a call with the Congressional Progressive Caucus on Saturday, Biden said there will be some form of Supreme Court reform that he will be launching or seeking to implement. According to a source familiar with the discussion, changes to the top court will need congressional approval, which will be unlikely in a divided Congress. However, with ex-president and present presidential candidate Donald Trump bragging about placing 3 justices on the Supreme Court, who are now part of his conservative majority, Biden's call for major changes could aid animate his voters. Trump criticized the possible Biden move in a post on his Truth social media platform, saying, and I quote, "The Democrats are attempting to interfere in the presidential election and destroy our justice system by attacking their political opponent, ME, and our honorable Supreme Court. We have to fight for our fair and independent courts and protect our country." On Thursday, Trump, who is set to officially accept the Republican Party's presidential nominee, will face Biden in the November 5th election in a repeat of 2020 contest. A bipartisan group of legal experts in October stated their support for 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices as a way to discourage partisanship and boost the judiciary's reputation. According to a poll conducted in 2022, about 2 in 3 Americans say they favor term limits or a mandatory retirement age for Supreme Court justices. According to a survey in June, confidence in the Supreme Court remains low, with 4 in 10 U.S. adults saying they have hardly any confidence in the people running the top judicial body. On Israel-Gaza war, reports from Lebanon says Israeli air raids in southern Lebanon have killed no less than 5 Syrians, including 3 children, as Israel's military and the Hezbollah armed group continue to trade fire across the border. On Tuesday, it was reported that the 3 children were killed in an Israeli air raid that targeted farmland in the village of Umtut, while 2 others were killed in an Israeli drone attack on the Kfar Tebnit road, which is also in South Lebanon. The United Nations Children's Agency UNICEF condemned the deadly attacks. Reports citing a Lebanese security source reported that the other 2 Syrians killed on Tuesday were civilians who worked in the area and had been swimming there. The killings come as Israeli forces continue to trade fire with Hezbollah, which launched attacks on Israel in support of Palestinians in the war-torn Gaza Strip. The Lebanese armed group has said it will cease hostilities as soon as Israeli authorities and Hamas, which governs the Gaza Strip, agree on a ceasefire deal to end the brutal war which has killed at least 38,713 Palestinians in Gaza and 1,139 people in Israel. Data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, ACLED, show that Israel, Hezbollah, and other armed groups in Lebanon have carried out at least 7,400 attacks across the border since the war on Gaza erupted in October last year. Israel steered around 83% of these attacks, totaling 6,142 incidents and killing at least 543 people in Lebanon. Hezbollah and other armed groups were responsible for 1,258 attacks that killed at least 21 Israelis. On Tuesday, Israel's military said that its air force launched attacks on parts of South Lebanon after detecting over 50 projectiles from the neighboring country. The military said it attacked Hezbollah sites, including a terrorist cell in the Yarin area, which is close to Umtut. The Lebanese armed group issued a statement afterwards saying that it launched rounds of Katyusha rockets at northern Israel in response. The group, in separate statement, mentioned both the death of 2 civilians in Kafar Tebnit and the horrible massacre in Tut villages as reasons for the retaliatory fire. The violence, mostly restricted to the border area, has raised fears of all-out fight between the foes who last went to war in the summer of 2006. On U.S. 2024 elections, Donald Trump has received vigorous endorsements from ex-rivals at the Republican National Convention, RNC, a display of party unity days after he closely escaped being killed by a would-be assassin's bullet on the second day of the convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. On Tuesday, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis feted their former rival as they urged Republicans to come together to defeat U.S. President Joe Biden in November. Haley, who earlier called Trump unelectable, unqualified, and unhinged, said Republicans should back Trump for the sake of our nation, taking aim at Biden's handling of foreign policy and immigration, the key theme of the evening. Emphasizing the need for Republicans and Americans alike to come together, Haley said the U.S.'s enemies benefit when the country is divided. DeSantis, who finished a distant third to Trump in the primary, struck a more aggressive tone, latching onto concerns about Biden's mental acuity and calling on Republicans to send him back to the basement. We need a commander-in-chief who can lead 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. America cannot afford 4 more years of a weekend at Bernie's presidency, DeSantis added, referring to the 1989 comedy film about 2 employees who spent a weekend passing off their dead boss as alive. DeSantis said Trump deserved Republican support after being demonized, sued, prosecuted, and nearly killed. In keeping with his reputation as a cultural conservative warrior, DeSantis blasted the Democrats in hot-button issues ranging from undocumented migration across the southern border to COVID-19 vaccine mandates and gender ideology. Back to Israel-Gaza war. On Tuesday and after the Israeli military bombed a school housing displaced people in central Gaza, a young man stood at the chaotic scene with a rocket fragment in his hand. This is an Israeli-American missile, he said. For the past 9 months, mass casualties attacks have been a near daily reality for Palestinians in Gaza. Officials and everyday people in the besieged territory have expressed outrage that the bombs disseminating their lives are in many cases supplied by the United States as part of its alliance with Israel. After air attacks in the Mawasi area of Khan Younis killed at least 90 Palestinians last week, the Gaza government media office blamed the U.S. directly for the attack. But U.S. President Joe Biden has a different view of Washington's role in the war. He said, and I quote, "I'm the guy that did more for the Palestinian community than anybody," he said in an interview on Monday. He added, I've been very supportive of the Palestinians. The U.S. president's declaration was met with ridicule by Palestinian rights advocates who emphasized that Biden's unconditional support for Israel is triggering a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Amir Zar, a Palestinian-American comedian and activist, said, "It's hard to decide whether these comments by Biden were arrogant, blind, or deceitful. It seems that he wants to take credit both for enabling the genocide and for letting Palestinians have a little bit of medicine and water, including food." Lex Zaidan, a Detroit-based Palestinian-American organizer, echoed that criticism. Armed by the U.S., the Israeli army has killed over 38,000 Palestinians in Gaza and leveled large parts of the territory. Now, 6 people, including 2 Vietnamese Americans, have been found dead inside a luxury hotel room in central Bangkok, while with Thai police exploring the possibility that they were poisoned. According to Thi Thi Siang Sawang, Bangkok's Metropolitan Police Commissioner, he said the bodies were found by staff in a 5th-floor room at the Grand Hyatt Hotel after the guests missed check-out time by over 24 hours. Police said the incident doesn't appear to be a robbery and none of the bodies showed any signs of suffering physical violence. Police also believe they didn't harm themselves. But Thi Thi said cups with traces of a white powder were located in the room along with untouched food that had been ordered earlier. Poisoning has not been ruled out, he said. Authorities are presently searching for the seventh person who was part of the hotel booking and is now a possible suspect. The other four deceased are Vietnamese nationals. 3T said police believe one member of the party tried to reach the door but fell before they were able to do so. The U.S. State Department said it was aware of reports of the deaths of the two U.S. citizens in Bangkok. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller on Tuesday said, "We offer our sincere condolences to the families on their loss. We are closely monitoring the situation and stand ready to provide consular assistance to those families." Whenever a U.S. citizen dies in a foreign country, local authorities are responsible for determining the cause of death. We do reach out to local authorities often to communicate with them when it involves the death of a U.S. citizen, and we will certainly be doing so, Miller added. Adding that he did not know if the deaths came up during Secretary of State Antony Blinken's call with his Thai counterpart, as the call may have taken place before the agency was aware of the deaths. Last year, Sararat Rangsiwathapon, a Thai woman who was arrested on suspicion of murdering her friend with cyanide, was charged with at least 13 counts of premeditated murder in a separate poisoning case that shocked the country. On more stories talking economics in China, stabbing spark online debate on China's economic woes. The lethal stabbing of two people by a man at a residential compound in southern China has kindled an online debate that has intensified during the summer, damaged by a spree of similar crimes across the country. 2 days after those June 28 killings in the Guangxi region, national attention shifted to another stabbing incident thousands of miles away, which was then followed by two others, also unconnected attacks in public places, taking the toll to 7 deaths in 4 provinces within 2 weeks. According to the police, the circumstances differed in each case. One perpetrator had been in a drunken argument, while another has a history of mental illness. All cases remain under investigation, and scant information has been released on the suspects or their motives. The country of 1.4 billion has mostly low violent crime rates and very tight gun controls, but China has been hit by a number of high-profile stabbing cases in recent decades, including several such attacks at schools. What stands out about the newest stabbings is the social media debate stoked by them, which experts say mirrors a rising sense of anxiety and discontent that has spread across the nation in recent years as the country's economy struggles to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. China's economy, the world's second largest, has been plagued by countless problems, including a property loan crunch, weak spending, regulatory crackdowns, and high youth unemployment. With economies faring, it could face years, if not decades, of stagnation. These fears were clear on Chinese social media after the freshest attacks, with many commentators connecting China's dire economic circumstances to the violence, even as the attackers' motives remained unclear. Numerous others echoed this sentiment. Try not to argue with people outside. Another way we use the road. You never know if they are unhappy in life and can take it out on others. Experts warn that these messages don't essentially show the reality of those stabbings. Authorities haven't released much information about the suspects besides their age and gender. We don't know anything about their personal lives or financial backgrounds, and in some cases, it's unclear whether their attackers knew their victims. The stabbings this summer have gathered major online attention. For example, one related hashtag viewed more than 64 million times on Weibo. That's even as overall violent crime in China, already extremely low compared to many other countries, has been declining in recent years, according to reports. Instead, it's possible the online speculation could reflect the public's own fears as the economic slump drags on, said Michelle Mayo, an associate law professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong and a fellow at Stanford University's Center for Advanced Study in the Behavioral Sciences. Ex-CIA analyst Terry indicted for secret South Korea ties. A significant expert on North Korea and former CIA analyst has been charged by a New York grand jury on charges of secretly working for South Korean government in exchange for designer goods, Michelin star meals, and $37,000 for a fund that she controlled. According to the indictment, which was unsealed on Tuesday, Sue Mi Terry, who was once a member of the U.S. National Security Council, first acted as a foreign agent in June 2013 as she started meeting with an unnamed handler on multiple occasions. At the direction of ROC government officials, Terry advocated ROC policy positions, including in published articles and during media appearances, disclosed non-public U.S. government information to ROC intelligence officers, and facilitated access for ROC government officials to U.S. government officials. The indictment alleges using the initials of the Republic of Korea, South Korea's formal name. In return, South Korea officials allegedly offered the former analyst closely $37,000, asserting they could hide the origin of the funds by depositing them into a designated gift account at the think tank where she worked, according to the indictment. Terry also allegedly received lavish goods, including a $3,450 Louis Vuitton handbag, a $2,845 Dolce & Gabbana coat, and dinners at Michelin star restaurants, and she was paid to write opinion articles that advocated South Korean policy positions in America and Korean media outlets, filing claims. Eva Zoirich, a spokesperson for the Council on Foreign Relations think tank that employed Terry, said the senior fellow was placed on administrative leave quickly after it learned of the indictment. The indictment alleges Terry acted as a valuable source of information for the South Korean government. South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and National Intelligence Service did not immediately make a comment on the matter. U.S. law obligates American citizens to register as foreign agents if they engage in certain behaviors for or on behalf of a foreign government. The indictment alleges that Terry was acting as a foreign agent but did not register as required, which is a crime. In African scenes, Congo and the MIF say civil society criticizes fund handling. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) Executive Board has approved the disbursement of about $43 million to the Congolese government under the extended credit facility initiated in 2022. This approval comes after 4 reviews of the 3-year program, stressing the economic effectiveness of the structural reforms implemented. The International Monetary Fund, contrary to popular belief, does not give us money to carry out our development. The IMF also helps improve the quality of our financial credibility. This means that we become credible, and when you are credible, you can then raise the funds you need on the international financial market. Congo is above the community standard of 3%. Congo's inflation is at 3.7%, indicating an improvement at the microeconomic level, according to Alphonse Ndogo, an economic journalist. This positive outlook, however, is not entirely shared. Many civil society members and political actors express fears about governance issues. They argue that the ongoing crunch and present cash flow tensions in Congo high points major shortcomings. Clemens Merassa, president of the Congolese Social Democratic Party, voiced his concern. I regret that in terms of major reforms that could have helped Congo out of the crisis, very little has been done. With a corruption perception index of 22/100, which is truly mediocre, nothing has been achieved. Pensioners have 41 months of pension arrears, students have 3 or 4 years of scholarship arrears, and Marian Ngwabi University is on strike. I believe this is due to poor governance. While the IMF forecasts the Congolese growth rate at about 3.5%, numerous Congolese citizens feel detached from these positive indicators. They argue that they are bearing the brunt of the IMF's structural reforms. Despite these criticisms, the Congolese government remains optimistic. It has assured the public that by next year, Congo could finally see major improvements and emerge from its present economic woes. As the debate continues, the reality of Congo's economic and social situation remains complex, with progress and challenges coexisting in a landscape marked by both hope and doubt. We take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll bring you more stories, particularly from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. Now, stories from Nigeria. We begin with NLC threatens nationwide shutdown over minimum wage bill. The Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has threatened to shut down the country for a month over plans by the National Assembly to deregulate the minimum wage as the nation waits for a new national minimum wage. Joe Ajaero, president of the NLC, who spoke on the sideline of the 67th Annual General Meeting (AGM) in Lagos, insisted that minimum wage is a national issue. He cautioned that organized labor will not accept a situation where governors working with the members of the National Assembly will enforce slave wage and poverty on workers and Nigerian citizens. The very moment the House of Representatives and the Senate come up with such a law that will not benefit Nigerian workers, they will be the divers and gatemen, and there will be no movement for a whole month. And finally, on the news, military, police, NNPCL, others combat crude oil theft. Yesterday, the Armed Forces of Nigeria, in collaboration with the Nigerian Police, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL), and other security agencies, declared renewed war on perpetrators of oil theft, particularly in the Niger Delta, in a bid to boost oil production and revitalize the country's ailing economy. That was, and as the National Assembly threw its weight behind the ongoing efforts to boost Nigeria's crude oil production and grow its reserves. The federal legislature said it will consider the laws proposing harder consequences for crude oil thieves and those that vandalize the country's critical hydrocarbon infrastructure. Equally, the state coordinator of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Ike Eseka, yesterday sought the backing of the Nigerian Army to tackle the widespread issues of petroleum products diversion, price extorting, and sale of adulterated fuels in Akwa Ibom State. The increased war against oil theft followed a fresh directive by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the military, police, and the NNPCL and other security agencies to boost production of crude oil in the Niger Delta. Chief of Defense Staff (CDS) General Christopher Musa, while speaking after a closed-door meeting with the leadership of the NNPCL and heads of security agencies, said the president had given them a mandate to make sure they secure the whole South-South to enable NNPCL and others to carry out the attacks to boost oil production. Musa assured Nigerians that they will see the result of the revived war against oil theft within 3 months. According to him, the truth is that whatever is happening in the South-South has been ongoing for a long time. He emphasized the need to bring the criminal activities to a halt. Musa promised that going forward, the whole South-South will be cleared of all of its vandalism and criminality within the general area. He stated that the joint task force, which the land components of all the other agencies, will work together to bring results. Inspector General of Police Kayode Ogbekutokun assured Nigerians that in the days ahead, they were going to see positive results. Another look at the top stories. Biden to propose Supreme Court term limits. Israeli attack kills 3 Syrian children. Trump's former rivals, Haley, DeSantis unite at RNC. Biden mocked for claiming strong support for Palestinians, and 6 found dead in Thai hotel. Police probe poisoning. And that's all on the news. Enjoy the rest of your day from all the crew. Have a blessed day.